It is Monday, October 17th, 2022. This is another edition of Baseball Today, presented to you by SeatGeek. That is Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose. Producer Dan is along for the ride as well. What a crazy weekend we had in the baseball world, and thankfully we all get treated to a fifth and deciding game tonight between the Guardians and the Yankees. How much baseball were you glued to this weekend?
Like too much, Chris. I was watching baseball on TV the entire weekend, and if I wasn't home sitting under my gazebo watching it there, I had it on my phone. I was playing tennis because I need to get my cardio in. I had it in my earbuds. I was listening to John Sterling. So it was all types. I listened to the Phillies game in Spanish because I accidentally pressed the wrong button, and I ended up liking it, so I listened to it. So I was all over the spectrum, but I consumed a ton of baseball. And you know what? I'm happy. It was a great weekend of ball. We got the CSs locked up, except for one.
No,
game.
we don't. We don't have the CSs locked up.
I said except for one game.
Okay, good.
Let's
get to it. Gerrit Cole shoved for the Yankees in Game 4, 7 innings of impressive baseball. Do you, in your opinion, did he cement his Yankees legacy by keeping the season alive?
See, I don't really know what you mean by legacy. I think that Gerrit Cole has a lot of time left to establish his legacy, but he is laying the foundation down. You know, I think when the Yankees signed Cole to that long-term deal, they've gotten everything they've wanted. A leader by example. He goes out there and takes the ball. He's made all of his starts. You know, he's a vocal leader when he needs to be. He's accountable. He understands the pressures that come with New York. He's not a guy that's out on the town all the time. I think we talk about Aaron Judge being perfect for New York. I think Gerrit Cole's perfect for New York. Mm-hmm. I really do. He's had a few sound bites here and there. They're like, come on, man. But for the most part, he's been perfect out there. And he likes being a Yankee. He likes these situations. He was dominant last night. I love what he said about when he found out he was pitching Game 4. He goes, you're either clinching something or you're bringing it back to the Bronx. And he was excited to be pitching that game, and he showed up for them. 7 innings makes it really easy for Boone to make the bullpen decisions. So I think that he's done a really good job his first couple of years here in New York. Like I said, his legacy is still being written. I think there's plenty of big-time Gerrit Cole moments left in the future, even in this postseason possibly. But he has been everything the Yankees wanted and probably more.
Let's be honest. He's been one of the better postseason starters over the last 6 or 7 years. Now, did he have a clunker last year in the wild card game? Absolutely. Was he bothered by a bad hamstring? Yes. But if you're out there, that's the only way we can judge you is on your results, and that's it. But he's been really good. He's made 16 postseason starts and has an ERA under 3. Just so that some people know, I know maybe our younger generation never saw a guy like Greg Maddux pitch, but you know his name, and you know how in high regard he is held in this sport and should be. He was an average postseason pitcher at times. Really was. I think his ERA is over 4, high 3s or whatever. Cole's at a 2.81, 127 strikeouts in fewer than 100 innings. What he's done against Cleveland in 2020 and now in 2 starts in 2022 has been really impressive. So, yeah, I think he's done a great job. Now, he's going to, if the Yankees win tonight, he is going to have to prove it again in Game 3 against the Houston Astros, because as the stakes become higher, that's really how we judge you. It's not in a wild card game. It's not in a divisional round. It's to get your team to the World Series and what's in the World Series, particularly when you're the Yankees or a member of the Yankees. It might not sound fair, but that's what happens. So you're right that the whole story has not been written.
Yeah, I mean, look, he wants the ball in those big games, and I think that is basically all you can ask for. Good health and a guy that wants the ball in big situations. Gerrit Cole is going to give those both to you.
All right. So now let's move on to Game 5. It's the only game in town tonight. What will determine this one, or what are you most interested in watching?
There's so many things here. I'm curious how Tito, presents his staff. He has a full presents his staff. Okay. He's got a full rested bullpen.
Hey, hold on. No matter what you say today, it can't be nearly as bad as what Chris Collinsworth said on Sunday Night Football. So you're good.
I wasn't trying to say that. The jury's still out on Chris Collinsworth there. I'm interested. Like, are we going Savali? Is that really going to happen? Is it a facade? Are they going to have an opener? I don't know what's going to happen, dude. Like, do you trust him to go out there and get you through the first 3 batters of the Yankees? Do you want to be behind in the winner-take-all game? Like, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. I think for Cleveland, for your Guardians, if they get out and get a lead, they have the recipe to win this game. I think they have to go out there, score early. And then we were talking about it earlier today, Jake and I. I mean, you can expect 2 from Clase, 2 from Stefan. You know, Karinchak will give you 1. That's 5 innings accounted for already. You got Henches and a couple other guys you can mix in there. They have a path for success. I think they just have to go score early. The Yankees pitching is a little cloudier. Maybe some Nestor Cortez. Tyone's going to get the start. We'll see what the hook's like on him. The leash will be short, I'm sure. It is truly a coin flip in this game. I don't think the Yankees have an advantage. The numbers have shown the home team actually doesn't have the advantage. I know you want to be there. The atmosphere will be great. But if the Guardians go score first, it'll quiet the place down.
Maybe. I love decisive games. I don't love being a part of them. They're very difficult on my system, but I love it as a baseball fan because there is so much pressure on the manager to make the right decisions.
Yes.
And so often over the 2 years of this show, we have talked about how the front office has kind of guided people, and we'll be bringing that up certainly with the Dodgers coming up in just a bit. But I think in a decisive game like this, it's much more about your gut than anything else, because nobody's thinking that Tyone and Savali are going to be around in the 6th inning here. It's not going to happen. I think if each team gets 3 innings out of their starter, they're like, oh, thank you. We made it. And now we can do what we want to do. And it is fun to see a Nestor Cortez come out of the bullpen. Francona said a few days ago, Bieber's not going to. I don't know. If the season's on the line, how do you not bring him out? So that's the fun part, is seeing all that sort of stuff. Plus, who gets a chance to be a hero, man? We've already seen it in the playoffs. Harrison Bader didn't hit a home run with the Yankees during the regular season. He's hit 3 in this series. Trent Grisham was one of the worst offensive players in baseball during the year. They can't get the guy out. So who's going to be that hero that we're not expecting? I think it's all fun. I'm nervous as can be.
I bet you
but
are.
I'm happy that I'm nervous because that means we're still playing.
Absolutely, dude. Francona was like, if you told me back in March that we'd have a decisive game 5, what do you mean? This is great, dude. This is, Chris, where you guys are at, the Guardians, to be in this position. How can you not just be thankful? Like, everything has kind of gone right. You know, you've made the right moves. Guys have stepped up. Like, you've gotten hot at the right times. Everything has worked out. You have a chance to go make some real noise in these playoffs. And this is not like a fluke anymore. We've seen them handle really rough environments. And like, as a Guardians fan, you guys got to be so stoked, man.
Yeah. Listen, I can't wait. I'll be working during the first part of the game. So I'm going to be doing BattleBots bot builder interviews while I'm watching on my phone. So I might drop a few MFs during the game, or we'll see.
Do you think the Yankees will move their left fielder in a little bit? Just a little bit?
Well, in this ballpark.
Stop the Cleveland bloop.
Yeah, the Cleveland bloop. They keep calling them the Cleveland bloopers. By the way, real quickly, it's a skill to put the bat on the baseball. It is a skill. They should not be criticized for their lack of exit velo or anything else. The whole goal is to put the ball in play. Now, some people put it over the fence better than other teams, but if this is what they do best, you know, and people could say they're lucky. They're lucky because their exit velo.
Are we talking about that with Philly? Phillies had more infield hits and broken bats and low exit velo than anybody. You know, Cleveland's done it the right way, man. I don't fault them for anything. In fact, I was talking earlier today, Hicks should have caught that ball. He was jogging the entire time.
Effort, I guess, is a skill too, but we can discuss that for another day. All right, let's move on to Philly, which has knocked out the defending World Series champion Atlanta Braves. If I had told you on June 3rd, when the Phillies fired Joe Girardi, they would be in the NLCS 4.5 months later, you would have said
Harper's back and they got hot. Like, it wouldn't have surprised me that much. Like, that wasn't something that was so far out of the realm. We believed in this team for a long time. Now, I remember when Topper took over, said this isn't going to get him over the top. When Bryce went down, we're like, can they tread water enough to hold the ground until he gets back? And they did those things. And Topper has made a difference. He's kind of steadied the ship a little bit. But we always believe in the lineup. And we know that, if you get hot at the right times, those, top 6 hitters they have, they can carry a team. And then they have the high end pitching. Now the bullpen is kind of like worked out for him this postseason. But at that time, Chris, I think we would have said that's kind of crazy, but I can see that happening. That would have been my mindset for sure.
Nope. I would have said nope. No
Okay.
way. No way. In fact, I said it that day. I said, geez, how much of a difference is this going to make? The roster is flawed. I think those are the exact words I used.
We both
the
said
roster is flawed. I'm shocked. I knew that they had decent starting pitching, better than decent.
Yeah.
I was massively worried about their bullpen construction. I was worried about their defense. And then when Bryce Harper gets hit on the thumb by Blake Snell, I was like, I'll see you in 2023 when we're going to have another year where Bryce Harper doesn't get a shot at the ring. This is it. See you. And so I am shocked, pleasantly shocked. Their bullpen consisted of Brad Hand, who's on the back end of his career, Jose Alvarado, who was so bad he got sent down. Eflin is a starter. I mean, really, is he really your 9th inning guy? Like, I looked at the bullpen, I was like, there's no way that they could. So even once they got to the playoffs, I said, you rely so much on your bullpen. There's no way they're going to get through it. And they've been fantastic and good for them. I'm excited for them. I'm excited for us as baseball fans, because whether you're a huge Harper fan like I am, or you just appreciate his skill set, I think it's great when we've got a dude who we've known since 15 years old, and now he just turned 30, I think, yesterday. And now he's got a shot at it. For the first time, he's in a league championship series. I think it's damn cool.
It's awesome. And, the Braves Dodgers matchup would have been cool, or the Mets Dodgers, or whatever. That would have been cool. But these two teams, Philly and San Diego, are probably the most fun teams to watch. And now you're going at it. You have a little bit of history with Bryce getting hit in the hand. Happened against this team, like you mentioned. Like, there's a lot of big, fun egos going up against each other. A lot of testosterone in this series. It's going to be absolutely electric. The fan bases
is going to be great. And
best atmospheres we've seen so far.
No question. And we're going to have basically a whole show on Tuesday to break this series down. Very quickly, 1 minute. Atlanta, 101 wins. Great during the last 4 months of the season. What went wrong?
Their starters didn't give him any length. Max had like a flu game type of thing. He wasn't great game 1. Wright showed up game 2, but then, Strider being hurt and not having length, and then Morton not really having it, and also getting hit. So the starters exposing the bullpen so much. It's very hard to overcome that. So I think that a combination of that, and maybe some of the guys struggling, like Riley didn't have a good series. Michael Harris didn't have a good series. I don't think Dansby had a good series. So, I mean, it just kind of was a recipe for a short series loss, basically.
Right.
Your starters don't go long enough, and some of your hitters go cold.
I do want to make this one point, and I got into it with a few people on Twitter over the weekend because I made a response to Eno, who got out there and talked about, like, I don't know. He wasn't being snarky or anything. What he said is, I don't know what to call these playoffs anymore, because it doesn't value what happened during the regular season.
Yeah.
And my argument to him was, hey, listen, we do have a new playoff system this year with the extra round, but last year the team with the fewest regular season wins won the whole damn thing. Why weren't people bitching up a storm then? I understand that in short series that luck plays a factor. I understand it. My response to everybody was, don't complain about it, play better. And people said, Rose, you don't understand baseball if you're what you're telling people.
You don't know
your
ball?
Answer is play better. Well, what is the alternative? Are we going to have best of 15 series to decide who moves on? Like, no, this is the way it goes. A 5-game series is 3% of the regular season. A 7-game series is 4% of the regular season. There's no difference between those two. There's just not. All of a sudden, in a 7-game series, does the luck go away? It doesn't. So in a short series, it is a lot about luck. But let's stop saying that and diminishing the accomplishment of the eventual World Series champ. I don't think it's fair.
One thing on that real quick, I think the 5-day layoff is a problem. Other than that, I get it.
Do you know that last year there was a 4-day layoff?
Yeah.
There's a 4-day. So when the wild card happens, there's a minimum or there's a maximum of a 4-day layoff for one of the league teams. That's one less day.
It's a problem though. When you have all of the teams that are having the buys kind of have that. We saw it's a problem, dude. You cannot replicate game speed. I think they're going to have to try to figure something out if they can, because it really is. I was thinking going in, and I'm going to be quick on this. Sorry, there's so many thoughts here. I thought the biggest advantage was going to be how you can stack up your pitching and be ready. It kind of showed up a little bit, I guess, with the game 1 starters, you had your aces going against the 3 guy, most likely. But really it ended up being that the hitters were out of sync and out of tune. And they'll all tell you that. And anyone that's played will say 5 days, 3 days is too much. Like for a hitter, 3 days is too much. 4 days is too much. 5 days is too much. Like once it gets to that point, it's just tough. I have a solution. I think you have to invite your AAA team to come play against you on those off days. Like you have to have a real game, and playing against an inner squad against each other, not great. Bring some minor leaguers up that have something to prove and that want to do it. There'll be a little bit more of that atmosphere. You need something like that. Teams are going to have to figure out something. I think that's one way they could do it.
I would agree with you. Even Dusty Baker came out and said, listen, the first 5 innings of the game against Seattle, game 1, we were out of it. Like we looked like we had been off for 5 days. And I understand that. You knew it going in.
Yeah, these players are legit, man. It's very tough. It's whatever. We can move on, bro.
All right. Today's episode of Baseball Today is presented to you by SeatGeek. Quick reminder, we want to get your questions in, because on Tuesday's show, we're going to ask our SeatGeek question of the championship round series. That's where we'll be. And the cool thing is, if we pick your question to be used on Baseball Today, you will get $1,000 in credit to use on the SeatGeek app. Now, if you've never used it before, go to your phone, download it right now at the App Store, and it helps you find a seat to a baseball playoff game, NFL, college football, NBA that's starting this week. Pucks just dropped last week, your favorite concert. And on top of allowing you to do that, we're trying to get you to save dough. You will get 10% off your order if you use the code JOHNBOYPLAYOFFS. That's all caps, all one word. And that's whether you're a first-time buyer or not. Usually that's reserved for just first-time buyers. But if you're a returning customer, great. Use JOHNBOYPLAYOFFS, all caps. You're going to get 10% off of your order. Nice thing that SeatGeek does, they rate every ticket on a scale of 0 to 10 to make sure you're getting the best deal possible. They also color-code it. Green is good. Red is bad. Once again, green is good. Red is bad. Save 10% of your order. John Boy Playoffs is the code word. Download the SeatGeek app today. And don't forget to get in your SeatGeek question of the championship series round. We will use one starting on Tuesday's show and pick a winner. We continue on here, and the Philadelphia Phillies will be facing the San Diego Padres, who are NLCS bound for the first time in 24 years. They beat up on a team that finished 22 games ahead of them in the NL West. How do you explain the Padres pulling this off without a single at-bat this year from Fernando Tatis Jr.?
Kind of like what we're just talking about. They got hot at the right time, exposed a 5-game series. I think when you really look at it, the health of their starting pitching throughout the season really helps, right? They have a couple guys made 30 starts. Everyone was 20s or higher. Kind of lets some of the bullpen rest throughout the year. Their bullpen has been good for them. I think having that rotation depth has played a big part in this series. And then we'll just go back to it. Anything can happen in a 5-game series. Once you split those first 2 games, anything can happen. The Dodgers played good baseball, but they had some real timely hitting. The bottom of their lineup really produced for them. You mentioned Grisham before. Cronenworth has been a playoff god. I mean, the bat he had against Vesia there to put him ahead was incredible. So they, the timely hitting, good pitching, short series, anything can happen. And now we'll be talking about who's the sweetheart team, who's the team that can do it. Is it going to be Philly or is it going to be San Diego? Because they're kind of in the same realm there where it's like we got hot at the right time and guys are producing.
A few things. The bullpen was unreal. Suarez has been virtually unhittable. Josh Hader is back to putting on his Josh Hader mask. He has just been filthy. But I think that if the Padres win this whole damn thing, we are going to circle the 7th inning of Game 4. Top of the inning, the Dodgers had a chance to extend a 3-0 lead and couldn't do it. Bottom of the frame got out of control. Kim with the huge double down the third base line after showing bunt on the first pitch. That was enormous. And by the way, he has been fantastic, a fantastic fill-in for Tatis Jr. They would have just been happy if he could catch every ball coming his way, which he's done. But he's gotten a few huge hits for that team as well. That was enormous. That 7th inning was just something you could almost do a whole 30 for 30 on. I thought it was that interesting.
I don't want to go into it too much. Dave Roberts, I don't know what he was thinking there. You give Vesia no time to warm up and you bring him in a 1-0 count. I think, we always talk about lanes and we got this and he brings Martin in because he liked that lane for him in the 5th or 6th inning, whatever it was. How do you not see that you got a lefty coming up that you want that Vesia matchup? He's got to be up and throwing. The bullpen guys will say, I'm ready to go. Doesn't matter, but they need to get warm. And he had him 2 strikes, just didn't execute. And sometimes that extra little conviction comes from being warm or not being warm. And he didn't get that pitch where he needed to get it. And Cronenworth made him pay.
And the other thing is that, listen, we look at the Padres and we're like, oh, they're the cute little Padres. In fact, we had a question at the beginning of the series was, are they going to get over their little brother syndrome of the guys 120 miles to the north? The Padres they might play in a small television market. They spend like ballers. They're top 5 in payroll, right? I mean, Machado's $300 million. They'll take on Josh Hader's contract, in terms of him getting paid $16 million a year. They're going to take whatever Juan Soto, that price tag has coming with it. They signed Eric Hosmer to almost $150 million deal. They pay Yu Darvish a ton of money. A lot of guys in that starting rotation make some bucks. So they are willing to spend. They play like they're the big boys on campus. And I think they showed it. I think for too long, we've just kind of looked at the uniform and expected the Padres to kind of whittle. That was not this team. I suppose one question I'd like to ask AJ Preller, and maybe Padres fans can help answer this in the comments section on our YouTube channel. Did Preller must have known that Tatis was not going to be there for the run when he brought in the Soto and Hader and Drury?
I don't think so. I mean, by all accounts, they didn't know. Tatis and his crew knew, and then they found out the same time everyone else found out. That's what everyone's saying. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think he's aggressive all the time anyway, and
he
wanted the team to get over this hump to be able to beat the Dodgers. In that clubhouse, all those guys are very, very confident. About as confident as you can get. But you got to do it. You got to beat the Dodgers. You can say that you don't care about it and that you're not scared to play them, but you keep getting beat, series after series after series. Eventually you got to do it. And they did it. And now going forward, going into next year, that is something that they can draw on and bring to the table against the Dodgers. 100%.
Let's move on to the Dodgers. I want to keep this short, but I think it's a big topic because they've made the playoffs 10 straight years. They won it all in the shortened season in 2020. Do they just stay the course, or do they have to change their philosophy a little bit and or personnel, and that might include in the dugout?
I think they stay the course. I mean, they got bit by the injury bug at the wrong time. Obviously, Walker Buehler wasn't there all year, and he wasn't great before he got hurt. So that hurts. But having Walker Buehler would be awesome. Come playoff times, you really want him out there. And then even the injuries to Gonsolin at the end of the year, he wasn't able to give them any length. And I think that would have made a massive difference. So you had all this starting pitching depth. You drew upon it all year. And then at the end, it just you got bit at the wrong time. I think Gonsolin not being stretched out really hurt their playoff chances.
What is the most number of pitches one of their starting pitchers threw in the 4 games against the Padres?
It had to be Anderson, right?
Give a guess what the number was.
85?
86. Julio Urias, who I understand gave up a few runs, he threw 79 pitches in game 1. Now, they won. I understand it. I understand the philosophy. But what sort of world are we living in where your game 1 starter's getting pulled after 79 pitches? What's going on here? I think the sport is outthinking itself way too much. Julio Urias is damn good. You're telling me he can't at least get one more inning? Because what you're asking is 4 different guys to be on their A game after him. And guess what? It didn't work in game 4. It did not work in game 4. And a lot of people strictly want Dave Roberts fired. That's it. I am telling you, I tell all my Dodger friends this is not a Dave Roberts decision.
No.
Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree for the most part. Like that philosophy of not letting pitchers face their lineup a third time through, that's an organizational philosophy during the playoffs. And then, maybe every once in a while they'll let someone do it. Maybe a Kershaw will do that, whatever. But he's made some mistakes. Like I said, the timing of the Vesia thing, I think that's inexcusable. Like, I don't understand how that he wasn't just up. Like, you can get guys up but you're right. A lot of it comes from the front office.
Why wasn't Tyler Anderson allowed to go further? I understand the numbers. I get it. But man, maybe once again, it gets back to like the whole Blake Snell in 2020 in game 6 of the World Series decision. I understand the numbers, but you don't know what day that guy is going to be special. And go ask the Padres if they were happy when he came out of the game or not.
I agree. If you see a guy's on and pitching well, and that's happening, like you can let him run a little bit. Because you're right. If you have to piece together four innings, 4 different relievers, all it takes is one guy to have a bad day. A couple walks, 3-run homer, and now you're behind the 8 ball. So I agree. I told you this before the playoffs. I like the playoffs because there are managerial decisions involved in the pitching, and we analyze those, and I love that. It's very hard to manage a bullpen. You get a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking with that. They have to figure something out. I agree with you.
Let's move on to the Houston Astros. They sweep the Mariners in an all-timer, a 1-0 18-inning win up in Seattle. Jeremy Pena with the home run. They are now off to their 6th straight ALCS. Is Houston the premier franchise in this sport?
I don't think so. I think they're up there. I think Houston, Dodgers, Atlanta are all kind of on the same tier. We always give the Dodgers grief for one World Series title in 10 years straight in the postseason, but Houston has one, and they're constantly in the ALCS. So, if they run off a couple years in a row where they're winning championships, then we can say, yeah, maybe you guys are ahead of the Dodgers in Atlanta. But until then, I think that they're on a top tier. They're an excellent franchise. I love what they do. I just like the way that they approach the game. But I'm not going to sit here and say they're a better franchise than the Dodgers, a better franchise than the Braves. I won't do it.
I think they are. I'm so impressed. We've talked throughout this show about the role that good fortune or luck or whatever the heck you want to call it plays in this sport. For Houston to get to the ALCS 6 straight years, I have the utmost respect for the Dodgers. They've been knocked out before getting to the NLCS in that time. I have the utmost respect for the Yankees. They lost in the wild card last year. I'm not doing that to put shade on either of those franchises. I'm here to build up Houston in terms of that shows you how freaking difficult it is to get there. 6 straight years. They got there even in a shortened season when I think they were below 500.
They were
in those 60 games. And somehow they put it together. It's really impressive what they've done. You don't have to like them. You can still harbor ill will toward them. I personally moved on, but I understand people that haven't, and I understand people who still root against them. I get it. But if you can't appreciate what they've done, then I think that's a little much, because I think there's a difference between the two.
Can I say something? I don't understand people that still root against them. It's a different group of players for the most
Not
part.
entirely.
Well, for the most part. And, everything's going on is, above the table. Is that the right saying?
Yeah, in plain sight, sure.
Watch them and watch excellent baseball. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from them by saying they're not the best franchise. Like, they are an excellently run franchise with some players that you just can't miss. But I think there's a couple of other organizations that are there too.
Very quickly, how much has Seattle closed the gap in the AL West?
Dude, they almost won that series, Chris. Like, that's what I keep telling Mariners fans. You guys were close to sweeping. You got swept, but you were very close. If you could just stop Jeremy Pena, forget Yordan Alvarez. If you would have just stopped Jeremy Pena, you sweep the series. So they closed the gap. I mean, I understand what happened in the regular season. But like, to go into a dogfight like this and have those games, you had those games.
Yeah.
I know it hurts now, but I think when you look back on it, like, damn, we went toe to toe with them and we can do it for the foreseeable future as well.
I'm so happy that their fans got to see a home playoff game. I really was. That's why I was happy that they took care of Toronto. I know it sucks to lose that way, to sit there on the edge of your seat for 17 scoreless innings, and then a run comes across in the 18th. So I understand all that. Your starting pitching is locked and loaded. I don't know if Robbie Ray will ever be the pitcher that he was in Toronto, but they've got enough young guys behind Castillo, Logan Gilbert, and George Kirby. Those are dudes.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, you look back at it, and if you're a Seattle fan, you say, well, how the heck did we lose game one? You're right. I mean, if you're going to beat a team like Houston in the playoffs, you've got to seal that one. So I hope that there's a better race next year. I don't like it when teams win divisions by double digits. It's not fun. I don't think that's going to happen anytime in the near future, because I think, barring any significant injuries, Seattle's got its superstar. It's got a lot of power in that lineup. I'd like to see maybe the addition of a more steady bat, guy who has a higher on-base percentage somewhere in that lineup. But it's a really good team and fun to watch.
You want to know where Seattle really lost the series? They stopped selling beer in the 7th inning of an 18-inning game. They cost themselves a lot of money right there. And the fans, man, that's got to be tough. All you want is another beer. Couldn't have it.
Yeah, I don't feel as badly for the people lining their pockets as I do for those people who had to sit around another 11 innings without any suds.
Yeah, I think it was like a big sugar rush. They're going for sodas instead.
Speaking of raising a glass, after the Padres win it all, Wil Myers and his bride went out in the Gas Lamp District. And if you've never been to San Diego and partied in the Gas Lamp, it is a fun spot. Bought shots for a bunch of people in several different bars, I believe. Is Will just setting himself up for failure, because he might have to do this 2 more times?
I think he'll be just fine. The guy's made quite a bit of money. And to be celebrated, he's been there a long time, man. So this has to feel extra special for him. And you're right, man. That whole city was rocking. They're the only show in town right now, and they're putting on quite a show.
Yeah. I think he hasn't had a very good playoffs. I think he's something like 2 for 23 or whatever it is. But he has been around town since 2015. Some ups, some downs, a lot of injuries. I think this is the last year of his contract. I don't know if he's even going to continue playing baseball, but maybe that's what I appreciate most about it, is that how many times have we talked about people on this show that they haven't enjoyed the journey enough? That's enjoying the journey.
And they were wilding after the game. Their post-game interviews, Machado with his shirt off. He said he was having a party back at his house. I didn't get the invite, man. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's okay.
Never.
Maybe next round. All right, we know that you've got Talking Baseball every day. We've got Baseball Today coming your way every day. Quick reminder, latest episode of the Rose Rotation with the recently retired Stephen Vogt. He tells you why he might be your team's next manager. Really fascinating discussion, what's going on in his brain about retiring, 3 young kids at home, how he weighs all that stuff, and what his plans are moving forward. Plus, he tells us the amazing story of that final hit that left the yard, and just a lot of details I don't think we were privy to before that. So give it a listen. It'll bring a smile to your face. It's a shorter episode, half hour, very digestible. For our one-of-a-kind producer, and I stress one-of-a-kind, Dan Rourke, and for Trevor Plouffe, I'm Chris Rose. We will see you Tuesday to get you all set for the NLCS on Baseball Today.